Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Srini here, and this is the part 3 for Postman, guys. So in this particular video, we are going to look at the different HTTP methods in Postman. So we're going to look at what are the different HTTP methods. We are having get, post, put, patch, and delete. So we are going to look at how we are going to have an example executed with Postman. So let's get into the Postman. So let's open Postman tool. So once this is open, right? So as I've already discussed with you all, that you can see this kind of a screen once you have opened Postman for the first time. You can look at how to create a basic request and collection from a previous video, right? So let's get on to today's topic. So today's topic is on different methods in Postman. So here, let's say that we are having this get call. We have already seen get call in a previous session. So what we will do is we will again execute it and we will just run it and see what is the output. So for the get call, what we have to do is we have to mandatorily provide the endpoint URL. We need not have any body passed. Body will be empty. This will be empty, right? It will be none. This is not required for the get call. And you can have such kind of query parameters passed as a part of get call. So remember, guys, the parameters which are there would be a part of your get call as a part of endpoint URL when you're using get method, right? But if you're using post method or put method or patch method, for these three, the parameters would not be a part of your endpoint URL. They would actually be a part of your payload, the input form data, the input body data, right? What we have seen in the last session. So it will be a part of that. It will be coming as a part of your raw. It will be a part of your JSON. But for get call, we will always have the query parameters as a part of our endpoint URL, like how we have passed here. So let's hit send. Right, so we have got the output, and this is the output. We have got the response JSON payload, and along with the payload, we also get cookies. So you would see that different information gets stored, right, as a cookie, and even you get a lot of response header information back. So we can basically store this into some kind of a list or a hash map, and later we can iterate over it once we look into our API automation, right? Using rest assured, we'll be able to see how we can store these all headers into a hash map, and then we can retrieve it one by one based on whatever key we want, right? Like the date or the content type, we can accordingly retrieve it whenever we want to. And we can also validate the status information whenever we look at the rest assured automation part. We will be validating the status part. So let's look at the second example. Second one is post. So as I said, for the post, you also need an endpoint, but along with that, you cannot pass, or you should not ideally pass the query parameters. So this will not come. This should not come. This should always be a part of your body. Now the reason for the same is that because for security reasons, if some sensitive information, let's say user wants to store some sensitive or important data like their identification information, right? So they don't want that particular information to be exposed to the network. So they would want it to be passed over a secure transport layer protocol and it to be part of the body, right? The payload body. That is why always for post, put, delete, right, or patch. For delete may not have any payload, but post, put, and patch, we always would have the parameters passed as a part of your body, the input request payload. So let's look at the example. So we have these different APIs. So there are so many APIs we have in the market available today. You have Twitter API, you have Jira, you have Facebook. So I'll be taking over one of them as an example. But just for this session, let me take a simple example of regress.in API, dummy API, so that you can understand any topic without much worry about how it is working, right? It's very simple to understand this particular dummy API. So you need not need any registration also. You can just directly hit it and it's very simple to understand. We just have to go to this URL and they have given a lot of options here. You can see get list of users, single user. These are all different get calls. Then you're having different examples for post. If you want to create something, then there is an example for post API. Then you have put, you have patch, you have delete, right? So let's look at the post one. If you want to create some data, right? So we are going to use this as our base URL. So we already have that available, right? So what we would do now, we have this particular API available. This is the base URL. let's append to that this particular portion, right? So let's append to that slash API slash users, API slash users, right? So that's all we need, but we also need to pass a body here. We need to pass an input request payload body. So we would be going to body section and we will select this raw and we're going to mention this data. So let's say I'm going to just put some data, right? And here, apart from this, let's say there is no authentication required for this kind of API for now. Then you don't have to have any authorization information entered. You just have to have the input payload URL, endpoint URL, the payload body, and the post method, and that's all is enough for you to execute your post request. So let's go ahead and click on send. So you can see that we have got the response as 201 created. So in my last session, I had explained you all the different status codes and when we get which kind of status code. So this 201 created, I had mentioned that we get it when we are basically doing a post call, and it indicates that the request has been fulfilled and resulted in a new resource being created. So that is how the server is giving you the acknowledgement back to the client. And this is the response which is being retrieved, right? It has given you with the ID for the user which is created. It has given an ID and the timestamp when it was created. And it has a cookies being returned, and it also has some header information being returned about the date, time, etc. Right? So this is how we do a simple post call with Postman tool. I hope this is clear to everyone. Right? The next session, so the next particular API we are going to look at is the put. So put indicates that we are going to update some information for a resource which is already existing. So here, this is the endpoint URL being given for the resource. So I'll just copy it, slash API. So I'll just copy this one, slash API slash users slash 2, right? Slash API slash users slash 2. So for this one, if I'm giving updated payload, it is going to update that. So let me say Srinivas, right? And I'm just going to click on send. Okay, sorry, it had to be done with put. So let me select put here and let me hit it again. So put will basically update if it is not already existing. So it has given you with 200 OK. So look at this indication, like what exactly is the meaning of 200 OK? These are the standard response for successful HTTP request, right? So this basically means that the response will contain an entity describing or containing the result of the action. So let's go back to our body. See, it has given you an update about the entity that this particular resource with the ID 2 did exist, but that Morpheus user we have updated to Srinivas, and the updated information time is being mentioned in the response payload. So this is what put does. Basically, put will just update the resource. It is not going to create a new resource. It would create a new resource only in the scenario where the resource is not already existing on the server side. And similar to the other API calls, we get the cookies and the header information. Right? So I hope this is clear. And we have got the status 200 OK as well. Now the other method we are going to look at is patch method. So patch basically means like a partial update. If you don't want to update entire resource in entirety, right, you can update it partially using patch. So let's look at the example for patch. So for patch, they have given the same example and they have just updated the job now. If you see, previous to this one, we had put, it was just updating the resource, but for patch, they are just updating the job being leader. So this has to be, this is going to be changed. So let's say, I'm going to say this as team leader, right? The same URL, slash API slash user slash 2, same URL. And let's just click on select patch and click on send. So it's going to partially update the job information, and it has updated with the status as 200 OK, and it has given the response payload also. So if there's any confusion with respect to patch, don't worry. When we look at a proper API examples like Jira, Twitter, let's look at Jira, Twitter if they have some better examples for patch. So you can get a lot of examples on the API. So these are the different endpoint URLs they have given. But the thing is that it requires a proper process. It will not allow any user to carry out the actions because they have authentication process. So we need to first get our account created, then we have to get the authentication key, and then only we can hit these URLs. That is why we will not be able to directly get started with these kind of APIs now in this session. For that, we will have to start from scratch by creating a registered user, and then we'll be able to look at that. So if you are not yet clear on the put and patch difference, don't worry about it. I will explain it when we look at Jira or Twitter or Facebook API. Right? We'll look into that in detail. But it just updates your information partially. That's what a patch does. The next one is delete. So delete would just basically expect you to give your endpoint URL, which particular resource or the uniform resource identifier location you would want the server to remove the data, and it would just respond you with 204 that the data has been deleted. So let's try out that. So it's the same. We just have to select here as delete, and we don't need to give any information for body. And now we can just click on send. So here we go. It has given us the response 204 status code, and it is saying no content. So what it indicates is that it has successfully processed your request, but it is not returning any content because it's not required, because 204 itself is suggesting you that it has successfully executed that, and it need not give any confirmation message. Some APIs do give a confirmation message in the form of a response payload body that successfully deleted, it was success, something like that. But for some APIs, it doesn't give any information. So in that case, we are going to get 204 no content. If it had any content, it would have given you 200. But since it does not give you any content back in your response body, if you see it's empty, it is going to give you 204 no content, right? So that's all we have for this session. And that basically concludes our Postman testing, how to use Postman for different methods, right? So we are going to look at authorization part when we actually look into our framework. That time we will be looking into authorization part, and we will cover that along with our automation framework. So do stay tuned for that next session. Thank you so much, guys. And if you are not subscribed to my channel, just go ahead and subscribe to it for future such videos, and do share with your friends and do like my channel. Thank you so much.